Welcome to Business Talk with Meghan McNulty, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of business success and reveals the strategies, insights, and stories that drive these professionals to thrive in the ever-evolving world of business. Whether you're an established entrepreneur, a seasoned business owner, or simply fascinated by the world of commerce, this podcast is your front row seat to learn from the best. Each episode, Meghan will bring you engaging interviews with professionals from diverse industries who will share their triumphs, lessons learned, and the insights they've gained along the way.
Hi, Jana. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So I am so impressed with you as a business owner and entrepreneur that I wanted to talk to you and ask you some questions about your business and how you got started. I know it takes a huge leap of faith and a lot of courage to start your own business. So I was just curious kind of how you got to this point and if you would share that with us. So you recently started your own bookkeeping business, which is super important. Everyone who has a business or has a situation that's complicated probably needs a bookkeeper, right? So can you tell us a little bit about how you got into that?
Of course, more people need a bookkeeper than they would actually think, but I'll get to that point later. My background originally is in finance and accounting, but I didn't actively pursue a career in it for the longest time until I was kind of life forced me into it. And after my husband's passing, I was kind of faced with a financial reality I was not prepared for. I wasn't knowledgeable about financing, even though that's my background. It wasn't something I was paying attention to or close enough attention to. So I told myself that this is something I need to familiarize myself with, learn everything that I could about it, so I'll never be in the same position as I was before. And actually, originally during our marriage, I started an e-commerce bridal fashion company. That's how my journey started, basically.
Lovely.
My passion project, which still operates until today, and I still love it. But after his passing, I just didn't realize that e-commerce, there's lots of ups and downs. You have to be prepared for the market and the economy, and that was not something that was sustainable for me to provide for a whole family after everything changed. So I decided to go back to my roots and pursue accounting and bookkeeping. And that was about maybe 5 years ago.
Lovely. And so you probably had a lot of experience from having the e-commerce business with the producing a product and shipping it out and marketing and making sure the client's happy and all that. So understand how the kind of a business runs, and you had the finance and accounting background. So now you started the bookkeeping business. Can you kind of explain how you knew that business owners, particularly, I mean, individuals need bookkeepers as well, but since you're a business owner, how business owners, why they would need a bookkeeper?
Well, we can start with what kind of clients
Oh, yes.
do I work with, or who needs bookkeeping? I normally work with small to medium businesses or individuals to help with their bookkeeping needs. I have multiple different industries and different companies I work with. My very first client when I actually started was a friend of mine who had a wealth management startup, and he was shopping around for accountants and bookkeepers. And he called me one day and said, "Hey, I got a bunch of quotes, and I feel like this is something you could do for me as well. I trust you. I know you're good with numbers. And instead of paying someone else, why don't I just pay you?" And for a second, I was like, can I? But I was like, yes, I will do it for sure. So he was my first client. He believed in me. My first call after this was to CPA referral. And I told him, I have my first client, but I'm not super familiar with the new systems. So I asked him to sit down with me, teach me the basics. From then on, I was just day and night into accounting and bookkeeping so that I can provide the best service to my first valuable client. And it ended up being a great partnership. It was a great learning curve for me too. So that was my first client. After that, I had construction companies, medical professionals. I have a cybersecurity consultant, entrepreneurs, small startups, even retail stores and a restaurant as well.
So for those that don't know, what is bookkeeping?
typically a bookkeeper depends on, there's a CPA bookkeeper, there's so many different financial professionals, wealth management or financial advisors. I focus mostly on bookkeeping. I don't personally do taxes for my clients. However, I work with multiple CPAs closely who I prepare everything for, and then they take over the actual tax preparation part. And we do payroll services. I can do bookkeeping cleanups, which seems to be a big business opportunity right now, because people tend to just be like, okay, I heard it from so many, even small business owners. I just choose one day out of the year. I'll sit down, I hate my life, and I'll just finish my books. And then I hear the complaints that my taxes were not filed correctly. Some expenses were categorized wrongfully. So this is when I be like, yes, because you just sat down for one day out of the year. How are you going to remember certain expenses or whatever you spent on in January? There's just no way. So that's why I say monthly bookkeeping is very important. Financial budgeting and consulting, we do bill payment for certain clients. And then just tax preparation and support in hand in hand with your preferred CPA or one of our CPAs.
Will you do payroll?
We do payroll, yes.
Okay, amazing. Okay. Yeah, so I feel like I agree. It's taxes are coming up and it's painful if you don't have these things organized and ready to go. You might be paying way more taxes than you need to if you're not, doing what you're supposed to.
Absolutely.
So
you don't want to end up having to amend it because you find out that a lot of things were categorized wrongfully.
It's wrong. I know. So what do you think the biggest financial mistake you see business owners making?
I would say one of the biggest ones is that they avoid looking at their own numbers.
Okay.
Most people that I talk to just say, I don't want to look at what I'm spending. I don't want to see all that. It's just all negative. But if you don't look at it, how are we going to know what we can budget for, how we can grow the company? So the budgets, the bills, tracking your spending, the daily, depends on the size of business, daily, weekly, or at least monthly. We need to be on top of all of those things. And then most people find this overwhelming. They're just simply not good at it, or they hate it, or they're just normally, like even a small business owner, they wear so many different hats, and certain things you're really good at, certain things you're not good at. So you tend to neglect the ones that you're not so good at. And for a lot of people, that's the numbers. And they either overspend without realizing it, mixing up business and personal expenses, that I see that a lot, and struggling with cash flow, missing important tax deductions, for example, or making decisions just based on gut feeling, not necessarily based on the numbers.
Right. So the bookkeeping helps you stay realistic and meet your goals instead of, just ignoring reality.
Exactly. My job is to bring clarity and structure and basically hold your hand through all of this so it doesn't feel so overwhelming. Most people think it's such a painful process, but actually it's not.
Okay. How has technology changed the bookkeeping industry? Do you see AI being used? Are there different software you can use? Automation tools?
There absolutely, technology has completely transformed the bookkeeping industry from back in the days, Excel spreadsheets and manual entry for everything. There's good sides and bad sides to it. I would say it made it more efficient. And if you use it correctly, it's more accurate and accessible. For me, let's say QuickBooks Online, I can access the same books that my clients can, so we can look at it live, both of us, so we're all on the same page. But then it also has a downside to it, where there's too much automation, where people just assume a system or a software is going to solve all their problems. I have a good example. I have a long-term client who purchased a property, and then and we've used QuickBooks for many years now. And then he transferred $1.4 million, and QuickBooks categorized it as groceries. Wow. Groceries, really? Based on the spending habits, or based on what? So this is where I say that QuickBooks or any accounting software is not like a magic solution. There still needs to be a person who oversees all of this. And if you operate it correctly, it's a perfect and amazing tool. But you do need to pay close attention to it, and you can't just assume it's going to know what to do. So yes, the technology has evolved and it helps because I don't have to do manual entry most of the time. That happens too, but most of the time everything just flows automatically through QuickBooks. So that helps.
Okay. When do you think a business owner should hire a bookkeeper versus handling their finances themselves?
Great question. Well, I would say most people probably need a bookkeeper before they realize that they need a bookkeeper, especially if they're not good with numbers, especially if they like to avoid that part of the business. They may be very good at marketing or running their own business, but not the whole budgeting and bill payment. I have clients who, if I wasn't doing their bills, they'd be constantly late on paying bills. Definitely something that, depending on the size of the business, something you may want to look at on a weekly, daily, or monthly basis. And I don't think I would necessarily put it like you have to have employees or anything. Could be just a hairdresser, could be an influencer who has cash flow and is not planning or budgeting properly, or just not filing correct tax returns, basically.
It's so interesting. I feel like if you do have a bookkeeper, especially if you're a business owner or an individual as well, that it really could save time, and you can't put a dollar value on time. So I think that makes sense. And it's just like a simple thing they could tweak, in their business.
Sorry, we always laugh. Like, you think, oh, it's such an it's a write-off.
Right. Yeah, it's part of the operating their business. What are some key financial habits every entrepreneur should develop?
Definitely a big one is that we spoke about when we talked about mistakes, is separating business and personal finances.
Oh yeah.
I know people think it's such a big deal. Just open another business credit card, open a business checking account. So as little mixing of both of the two are, the easier it is to keep everything clean. I understand it happens, and that's what we are here for, to help you navigate that. But definitely that would be one of my number ones. And then review your finances regularly. Don't wait until tax season. Don't just think sitting down once a year is going to be enough. Likely it's not, no matter how big or small your business is, or if you're a solopreneur and just doing sole proprietorship, it still matters. Monetary income, your expenses, your cash flow, and then set aside money for taxes. A lot of self-employed people kind of forget about that. I would say conservatively 25-30%, but at least I would say 15% would be allocated and put aside. Put it on a savings account. Do not touch it, so that when it comes to tax season, you're not going to be stressed. And then track and categorize your expenses properly. Big one.
Of course. Okay. I like that.
Just set financial goals. I think that's another thing that people forget.
How do you help? We have tax season coming up. How do you help clients prepare for tax season? Hopefully they've been using you all year, but let's just say, what do you need to remind them of?
The ones who use me year round, we're on
they
top
don't need any help.
Everything is reconciled. So the CPAs love me because we hand them on a silver platter. Here you go. I make their life so much easier. And then at the end, they don't realize also they're actually saving, because they won't have to have the CPA do so much work and backtracking. So instead of 15-20 hours, they can spend 2 hours on it because it's easy.
Right.
So I would say, let's not do the last minute scramble.
Right.
Let's do our year-round process and stay organized, compliant, keep your books up to date and accurate, track and categorize your deductions. We talked about that. The biggest thing is for everyone is just really know your expenses, know your finances in and out. Some people don't even realize how much money they're spending on, let's say, credit card interest.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the year, you look at your spending and you realize, oh my God, I spent $6,000 that I really didn't need to.
Right. Well, I totally see why having a bookkeeper is useful, and I definitely see why it would be helpful to free up time as well. How do you get, so this is your business. How do you get clients? Do you have certain people that you like market to? What do you do?
I actually don't do any marketing. All of
Okay.
my clients came through referrals and word of mouth. I
Lovely.
do work with some CPAs and then with financial advisors like yourself and probate attorneys who do have clients who need help come tax time or basically any time of the year starting a business. I had clients who came when they started a business, they didn't really know how to start any of the financial part of it, so they came to me for help.
Amazing. So I know that particularly because you had, a very traumatic event in your life when you lost your husband and you went through, kind of trying to rebuild after that. What can you say about like why it's so important to have planning in place, such as like an estate plan or even having your finances in place correctly, like and everything tracked? Like what can you like kind of speak to that through like your experience? Because you kind of learned, which I, have was talking to you then when this happened, that had there been more planning in place, it wouldn't have been so painful. And so, you can't really get rid of the trauma of it, but it maybe would have like been easier to deal with certain aspects of it that had the estate plan been in place or had like, everything been like, organized with like an accountant and a bookkeeper and everything, right? I might have misspoke a little bit, but I just was curious to your thoughts on that.
Oh, absolutely. I wish I had known everything that I know now, because even though, like you said, the trauma and the pain and the grief that you're going through is not something that you can take away from anyone, but being in a situation where you feel so helpless and alone and devastated is a terrible situation to be in. So I wouldn't want to wish that on anyone. That's why if I could go back in time, obviously, and that was my first thing I did afterwards, I came to you, I made sure I have a trust set up. And even if you don't have a whole lot of money, if you don't have multiple homes or a home, even just get it started, get everything lined up, have your will, have your advance directive. And I know these are all things that we don't like to talk about because everybody thinks we have more time than we actually do. And then things happen and then we leave our loved ones in a terrible situation. So financial planning, trusts, everything that basically it comes with, it's just one-time pain you have to go through and the discomfort of it, but then you are going to be set and your loved ones are going to be also taken care of.
I feel like just being proactive and making sure you're organized can really make a huge difference in your life and your quality of life. So I feel like you bring that to your new business where you're trying to help people stay organized and get their finances on track and make sure they have, everything categorized and in a place. And it's actually pretty incredible how much time that's going to save people if they do it ahead of time, and it's going to save them money. So who
And a
doesn't
lot
want
of
to?
stress that just
Yes. So
something that just becomes second nature. You don't have to think about it because then tax season won't be as scary and daunting.
yeah. And this thing, a lot of business owners don't think about it because they're so busy with whatever their business is that they're not actually taking into consideration all this other stuff that should be done, which I think So I think that's such a valuable service you're providing, and that's why I want to talk about it today, because I don't think people are aware that they can find people like you and come in and really help on a monthly basis or weekly. I don't know, it depends, right? So some people might need you weekly, or how often do you interact with your clients?
That really varies between all the clients. I do have clients. We have also nonprofit company that's more maybe a weekly or bi-weekly thing. And obviously throughout the year, there are times when they need us more. But I do have clients who it's a retail store. So we do pretty much daily tasks. We pay bills on a daily basis. I'm very available to my clients. I think that's also what they like about me. If there's anything, they know they can text me, they can reach out to me. And if I'm in front of the computer, which a lot of times I am, I will be able to help them. So again, It just really depends on the client.
Yeah, I could see how it varies depending on what's needed, but still, even from a larger business to a few employees to someone who's a sole practitioner still needs this help. They still need everything tracked and organized and their bills paid properly and their tax preparation done correctly so the accountant can do their job. So you really can serve a wide variety of individuals and businesses.
And you know what? Sometimes I feel like the bad guy because it's like pulling teeth when I try to get information out of them, what money was spent on. And then some people just try to like, oh my God, you're going to see everything I spend. And I'm like, yes, that's what I'm here for. And I'm here to help you.
Yes, don't worry. I'm
I've
like a
seen it all.
doctor. Yes. Okay, good. Okay. Do you think people get shy sometimes about it? Because they're like, oh, but you're not there judging.
At first, I have some clients who do get shy. Then they get to know me and they're like, nah, she won't care. It's fine.
Yeah, like I'm just gonna keep you organized.
Exactly.
Can you share, okay, I think the dress business is so fascinating. How did you get into, I'm kind of switching from your bookkeeping business to your other entrepreneurial endeavor, which was the dressmaking. How did you get into that?
Oh my goodness, that was how many years ago now? I think it was in 2018.
Okay.
I've been always fascinated by fashion. I always loved, I'm a hopeless romantic, so I love the whole bridal industry. And I did fall in love with photography a while back when I worked for a press agency
Okay.
and met many people in the bridal industry. And then my sister was getting married. It was a winter wedding, and we couldn't really find anything that was cute for her to wear. So
Okay.
I'm a DIY girl, so I'm like, why don't we just make something? And then that's kind of how the whole thing started. And then I started with dresses, but then soon realized that I don't have the funding for creating a big brand as far as bridal clothing and bridal dresses go. So I
Right.
moved on and realized that there is a need for beautiful winter bridal apparel like jackets, capes, cover-ups. A lot of
Oh,
them were not very attractive and something that maybe you'll wear once for your wedding day, but then you'll never wear it again after, and you spend so much money on it. So I wanted to create something that you actually, when you say I'll wear it again, you will actually do it. So that's kind of how the whole bridal jacket and Lenoir locks basically was born.
amazing. I didn't know that. So that's
Yeah.
great. And so you can get it online.
It's online. I do have some bridal stores that and boutiques that carry my pieces, but still
Okay.
most of the income comes from online sales.
Fascinating. What was so do you think your experience with the e-commerce sales really helped with the bookkeeping? Just because like how do you keep track of e-commerce sales? I mean,
We'll see if I could go back. I would have started my bookkeeping business first and then my
okay.
e-commerce, because
Yes.
knowing now what I know, it was a lot of it was a learning experience. I made mistakes, financial mistakes in the beginning, that knowing what I know now and seeing other people's businesses and how they run and operate it, I would have been a lot more profitable a lot sooner than I.
Right. I know a lot of business owners don't know that like this, they can write this off, they can write that off, that they cannot write off. They shouldn't do that. That
Oh,
should be a
you'd be
personal
surprised the things
expense.
we hear. Oh my God.
So I feel like yeah, it's if you have someone that's there to like kind of coach you through that, that teaches you all about that stuff. It's important. I mean, even, I don't even know everything. So I feel like, yeah, I really like wanted to talk with you because I'm fascinated by it. Because anything that can like simplify, cause less stress, um, free up time is so valuable, in my mind. So,
Yes, and it goes
and
hand
just,
in hand with what you do with the whole financial planning, because this is a
yeah.
big part of staying organized and then
Right.
making
How do you do an estate plan or a financial plan if you don't even know, what you're
exactly.
doing and you're not organized and you don't know what you have? You
Exactly.
can't really do anything. So I think it's a huge part and it's a huge first step in getting your life situated financially.
I think we
That
have to make people feel comfortable about a little bit more to talk about money and finances.
right, right. I agree.
I feel like a lot of people have a block and just want to ignore those
Yeah,
parts, and that's not the right way to go about it.
right. I would agree with you. I've noticed that as well. So what else do you want people to know about bookkeeping?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, I don't know. Everybody thinks it's like the most boring thing on the planet. And most people nowadays don't really want to do it. I find when I get a client and building out a whole system, creating their chart of accounts and kind of coming up with everything for them, I love that part of it. And then there's the boring part of it, that's the day-to-day. But I think if they realize how valuable it is for them, then they would be more inclined to spend money on it, and just not, even if they do it only twice a year or 3 times a year or quarterly, it would help them so much.
Do you think that accountants will promote bookkeepers at all? Do they like tell their clients, oh, you should get a bookkeeper? Like, I mean, I've never had an accountant do that, but I feel like they should.
It depends. I mean, I know
Yeah.
some CPAs who only do taxes and they don't do books because
Right.
most of the CPAs I know actually do not like to do the books. They just want to do the taxes.
Yeah, I agree. And also right now there's accounting shortage. I noticed that a lot of accountants are retiring and no one's replacing them. So that you can't
Exactly.
even like, it's people are having a hard time finding an accountant.
For sure. I mean, for me, thank God it worked out good that the CPAs I know and work with are happy to refer clients to me, because first of all, they don't want to do those. They don't have the time for it either. So I worked with another accountant who's my assistant, and we have another additional assistant. So I can handle more of the day-to-day work than what they can handle. They get crazy busy around tax time, but then that's pretty much all they kind of want to deal with, and maybe manage some more accounts, bigger accounts. But on a day-to-day basis, that's not what they want to do. And again, I think most people think that just because they sit down once a year, they'll give that mess to their accountant, then they're going to file a great tax return.
Yeah.
Most CPAs don't like that.
I hate tax season. So we're gonna have to switch that
Everybody
for
does.
me.
I know.
Yeah. Because I sit there for a day too and go, this is gonna be horrible, but more like a weekend. But anyway, and get it all done. So that's another story. But okay, well,
Well, now
I
you
mean
don't
this,
have to just come to
yeah,
me.
it's just I know you're gonna handle it. So I guess like what else do you want us to know, and how could somebody find you if they need your services?
Mostly, I would say phone or email. And my
Okay.
email is yanabbookkeeping@gmail.com. I
Okay.
also have a website, Seashore Bookkeeping,
Okay.
and you can fill out
Perfect.
a contact form over there.
Okay.
And I can send you
Wonderful.
all my contact information to you, and then that way any of your clients or anyone who's
We'll
in
share it. Yeah.
can reach me.
What, and then is there anything else you want us to know?
I'm sure, but for right now, I can't think of anything else.
Okay, great. Well, I think this was perfect. And I'm inspired to get myself organized now and with your help. So I'm sure other people are as well. So thank you
Well,
for being
hopefully.
here.
Well, thank you for having me.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing to the Business Talk podcast and leaving us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us grow and improve. Thank you for joining us today. This has been another episode of Business Talk with Meghan McNulty.